Hi everyone, welcome back to the Action Movie Show. It is myself, Carlos Alcazar, and as always with me, generally speaking, is my co-host, my associate, that guy who's contractually obligated to be here, Manyninjas. Hello, Manyninjas.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? Are you still looking at me right now? I can't tell.
I am awaiting their response, and then your reaction to their response.
We could be waiting a while then.
Yep,
Anywho, as you can probably guess from the image that's now popped up on the screen, the first part of the Godzilla set we're going to be doing here is actually Godzilla 2000.
and in the spirit of heightened production values, as you can see, I even have screen grabs. This is fairly exciting stuff, folks. Fairly exciting stuff. So I'm just going to come back here for a second. So that is, the high technology that I bring to the table today. But with that in mind, to get us started, for those of you who haven't seen it before, the format's real simple. This is a review of the movie. We're going to compare, in this case, we're going to compare this movie to the new 2014 Godzilla movie. We're actually going to cover the new Godzilla movie in another video, and we'll compare it to our thoughts on this one. So I don't think we'll go too crazy on this one, but we will talk a little bit about this movie. The first part is just going to be our non-spoilery, verdict on the movie. Then if you are interested in seeing it, go and watch it. You can pause or stop the video. Come back later on, watch the movie, and then maybe come back and see if you agree or disagree with our thoughts on it, because the remaining of the video will be us kind of spoiling stuff. So if you really don't want to know what happens in the movie without watching it first, now you know how this works, and I will give you fair warning. So first of all, do you want to show them the good old DVD case there, Manyninjas?
All right. In this case, we are dealing with something that's still in DVD video format. I imagine there is a Blu-ray at this point, or at least as part of a collection. But generally this time around, this is what we happen to have handy. I was actually surprised at how few Godzilla films we had on the spot when we were originally looking for the comparison films here. I need to correct that for later viewing.
Indeed. So what is the non-spoilery review of Godzilla 2000?
All right. Generally, this kind of applies to most of the earlier Godzilla films, to be honest here. For the most part, the general Godzilla films follow a certain thing. You have moderate human interaction, for the most part, kind of used in order to pace parts of the story, but realistically, you're watching the film for its monster action. And while anything involving Godzilla tends to be pretty good, in terms of an actual monster matchup, it's very short-lived, because there's not. Well, actually, I can't even say that part because that's still non-spoiler. It's the monster versus monster combat is a little shorter on this side of the film, which I can say, and generally, even in terms of the plot itself, it feels a little meandering at times. That you can actually seem to forget what's going on there, unless there are specific parts where they make emphasis to how this will relate to the plot later. But generally speaking, all the actual Godzilla action is still pretty good for the most part. Very enjoyable. It's your classic Godzilla, your guy in a suit, which is always good times for everyone. Your effects tend to be handled pretty nicely. It's a bit CG, I think, in certain parts, but most part it feels like it's practical effects, except for stuff that's obvious like laser beams and such. So it's just really impressive and nice to look at. Feels like it's actually tangible somehow. Overall, I'd say it's not the best Godzilla film with the classics that I've seen, but still a really good Godzilla film overall.
Indeed. So this is basically the last Godzilla movie of the 20th century. It was one where they got a North American release because there were big gaps between them. I think the one before this that had a North American release before that was Godzilla. I forget which one it was specifically, but it was around 1985. So there was a big gap between this movie and the previous one. This one came out around 1999, named Godzilla 2000 for the upcoming year. And as always, it went with the campy goodness that you want to have in your Godzilla movie. So you've got a guy in a suit for playing the monster. You've got, a monster-on-monster fight. You've got people being sort of set pieces to the monster fight, even though there's a lot of screen time. This one was cut down a little bit from the Japanese version, and of course it was redubbed. So of course you're going to have the bits where you're going to see people's mouths moving, and what's going to come out and what you're going to hear may not necessarily reflect what what the mouth is showing, as all good campy Godzilla movies should have. And having the more practical effects for me always makes it a little bit better. So I definitely enjoyed the movie, and I would highly recommend it because it's a fun film to watch, definitely. So with that said, we'll get a little bit started on that. So that's the short version. That's kind of our non-spoiler reviews. If you haven't had the chance to watch it and you'd like to, I'm pretty sure you can get, online. I don't think it's on Netflix or anything like that. At least not in Canada, it isn't. It might be in the U.S., but I'm fairly certain you could get a streaming thing. I'm pretty sure Apple iTunes would probably have it. I haven't checked, but I suspect there's a streaming way of seeing it. There are other means, of course, but if you like the movie, support them. But I leave that up to you. So with that said, why don't we get started? Manyninjas, anything in particular you'd like to say to start off? By the way, we're starting with the spoiler part now. You've been warned. When you see the ninja, it's spoiler in time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you see me, we indeed have hit the spoiler part of the program. So this every sentence here is your last opportunity to pause and stop the video if you don't want to be spoiled. All right, you've been briefed enough. Anywho, stepping into the movie. Generally, the way this movie starts, for the most part, is it's generally known that Godzilla is kind of a long, reoccurring thing by this point in the series here. So generally, people are still kind of researching into Godzilla, though, because, quite frankly, they don't know too much about him still up to this point, other than he occasionally helps people out or helps the Tokyo out and the world in general, but he also loves to wreck things. He just kind of seems to show up every now and then just to break the hell out of an area and then meander back off somewhere. So you have, in this case, a couple of factions. One you have, in your very introduction scene, you have a general reporter who's trying to get stuff for the newspaper that she works for, basically a photographer, right? You have the Godzilla... Damn it, what's the name of that group again? The Godzilla Prediction Network, which is basically a group of scientists at this point, and similarly interested individuals that are trying to track Godzilla's movements and actually learn more from the monster himself. And you have a member, or the group that is, I believe, referred to as CCI.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I can't remember the acronym. Crisis Center, pretty much the Crisis Center Intelligence, something like that. Carlos, if you could look that up for me, that'd be great, actually.
What CCI stands for?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Give me a minute.
Yeah. But generally, it's also kind of another group of, kind of a scientific group of sorts, but also regarded to the national security of the area. So while they are interested in Godzilla for reasons, they also really are more focused on destroying him in order to protect the area and basically trying to learn more for anti-Godzilla countermeasures, as well as anti-monster countermeasures as a whole.
Crisis Control Intelligence.
Crisis Control Intelligence, thank you very much.
Now, if I may interject for a moment, since you did bring up our research and his daughter and, of course, the reporter, let's give a little bit of something here. I'm going to come back in a second here with another little screen grab for you guys. I want to show you the high technology we're dealing with in our Godzilla predictions. All right, so here we go. Now, it's kind of dark, so you have to bear with me here if you can see it, hopefully. What you see there is a gentleman who's fiddling around with an antenna. So, of course, that's supposed to be a seismic radar, but to be honest, the first thing that made me chuckle about it is that the way it was being set up and the cable that he was hooking up to it, it kind of looked like, to be honest, that he was... I was wondering, as I literally wrote in my notes, it's like, I'm wondering why he's trying to connect an antenna. Does he need NBC that badly? Is he trying to catch the game? Because they end up hooking up basically what amounts to coax to this thing. It's basically what it looks like.
To be honest, it probably is. A lot of this stuff, you have to keep in mind, generally, for a lot of this stuff, it's probably using the same kind of technology you would have seen out of televised Sentai television shows or televised Sentai shows, aka stuff like the Power Rangers and sort of stuff like that, Big Bad Beetleborgs, for those familiar with the North American names for these things, where they have things where they generally look fancy, but they're really just kind of outfitted from what's available at the time to the studio. And they basically kind of chop shop reused parts in order to get things and make them look fancy, in order to save a bit of budget. It's practical work.
We've got some serious fancy stuff here right now. I'll show you another little shot here. This is our group of, protagonists. So here you have the scientist, there, the gentleman on the side there. You have his precocious daughter who knows an awful lot about science. And then you have a reporter in the back who's portrayed as the idiot. Or, as they referred to her early on, as the imbecile.
Yeah, they don't exactly treat it with much respect at the beginning. Although, quite frankly, it's kind of justified. After all, during the very part of that scene where she's kind of introduced there, they end up driving down a tunnel in order to actually, literally stare at Godzilla face to face. And what does that reporter do? She freaks out in such a way that she ends up pulling or taking various shots with the camera with flash on, and apparently she forgot rule number 1. When you're face to face with Godzilla, no flash photography. Godzillas do not like flash photography. So this pisses Godzilla right the hell off, and he starts chasing them down a bit until he loses interest and starts wandering off somewhere else.
Absolutely, and this seems to be a recurring theme. For the most part, Godzilla has a little bit of ADD, and as long as you can keep, as long as you keep his interest, then he'll chase after you. Otherwise, he'll pretty much start going in the opposite direction and destroy Tokyo or something. Now, I did want to point out a little something about the technology since I brought it up earlier. I actually am totally digging having these glorious, glorious screen caps for you guys here today. Now, this is actually a screenshot. Yes. A screenshot of them kind of showing off that, they're doing some of the GPS detection and also some of the readings from the seismometers and things of that sort. But here's the thing. When they show this scene here, they've already driven away from the seismometer. And the thing is, the problem with them driving away from the seismometer is they make it very clear that it's attached to the machine via basically a coax cable, which means that it's not connected to the machine anymore, which means where the fuck are the readings coming from? Now you can argue, well, you can have, readings over like a satellite or over like a Wi-Fi. I don't really think in 1999 you have Wi-Fi technology the same way. You could do it by satellite.
Yeah, continue talking. I'm just going to check something. So.
Yeah, but at the same time, you've already established that it's connected with a coax cable, so it's not.
At best, yeah. Pardon me. I just had to make sure there was nothing important on that call. Yeah, at best you could say, just you wanted to suspend disbelief, then maybe as they were running away, they attached some sort of receiver that could relay the signal. But honestly, it was an oversight. Let's be honest. That's honestly what happened there.
Indeed. And, it's small things, but you got to have a little bit of fun with it where you can. Now, I'll be honest with you, just on another topic. I loved, I thought, given that this was the last of the Godzillas this way released in North America, I thought they made a pretty decent account of Godzilla. I dug this Godzilla here. Like, check this guy out here. Oh, yeah. That's pretty sweet right there. Like, the costume actually was pretty great. I gotta be honest. And it was entertaining for what it was because you kept it pretty basic. Here. A lovely shot of Tokyo being ravaged as a large Godzilla in the background is kind of doing his thing. Taking out power plants and things of that sort. Taking out the power supply. Now, I gotta be honest. A good chunk of the first part of this movie kind of drags. It's there. You know where you're gonna... Really what you're doing is, to me, it's the... kind of the monster action movie equivalent of The Shining. You're watching the movie. It's reasonably well done for what it is. This one, not so much. The Shining is kind of a masterpiece for what it is. But really, you're looking forward to the moment where the thing you know is going to happen is going to happen. You're waiting for the monster fight in a Godzilla movie. In The Shining, I'm waiting for the moment that Jack Nicholson axes his way through the door, says, "Here's Johnny," and we proceed from there. But there's a large build-up before that you need in order to do it. In this Godzilla movie, in the North American one, they cut a bunch out of it to help the pacing, which is to say the way they originally shot it was kind of slow. It develops, but it takes a while. It isn't too long, to be honest. I think it's like a little over an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes, give or take.
And even then, realistically...
Like a drag.
Yeah, 1 second, actually. Let me see. I might say... approximately 99 minutes.
Yeah, so almost an hour 50, but it feels like it drags.
Yeah. Truth be told, the movie really doesn't get started, per se, until they introduce at least the first wave of the antagonist of the movie, which is for the most part a nondescript silver UFO that doesn't even assume a proper fighting form of any sort until basically the end of the movie. And that's after a lot of exposition to figure out, okay, what is this thing really doing here? And even when it first shows up, not only do the military look confused, you have Godzilla just kind of staring at it. It's like, what the hell is that thing? I thought the movie was about me. And then he gets shot with the laser.
Well, that's to use the ADD thing. That's how Godzilla rolls. Godzilla is very upset that the attention is being taken away from Godzilla's standard rampage of Tokyo. Godzilla had an appointment, and then this alien creature comes in and tries to take Godzilla's thunder. And Godzilla does not approve. That's basically the story in this movie. People really have nothing to do with the film. It's really about Godzilla not liking somebody else trying to take Godzilla's spotlight. There'll be none of that. And as a result of that, Godzilla will not stand for it. Now, I will, we're going to get back to that in 1 second. The only thing that I wanted to point out, though, is along these lines, they tried to make a subplot with with the reporter lady, the girl, and her father. They kind of made that the human subplot of it, and kind of their efforts against kind of what the CCI stands for. They're basically trying to say he wants to study Godzilla for the things they can learn about it, and the CCI wants to destroy it. And I think the whole idea is that we're supposed to feel like, Godzilla's misunderstood. But realistically, Godzilla's destroying everything, and really, until the aliens came, Godzilla was doing a standard variety rampage, destroying things. So for this point, the bad guy is trying to argue, look, he's destroying shit. We should probably find some way to end this and kill it so we don't have to rebuild Tokyo every 5 seconds. And meanwhile, they've developed this whole network and organization to detect Godzilla, and they want to study it. Even to the point that they have an organization in union dues, which gave me one of the more entertaining non-Godzilla-related moments of the movie. And I'll show you a picture just to help us out. And see if you remember this one, Manyninjas. This was when our little girl / secretary of the Godzilla thing.
Hold on, girls. I don't actually see anything right now. Yeah, there's nothing actually on your end. It's just showing like the video feed had cut out.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, hold on a second here.
Yeah.
By the way, did you see the pictures earlier when I was showing them?
Earlier, yes. Right now, actually, set the camera to me for the moment being while you try to fix that on your end.
Well, right now I see it. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, right now I just see what's your icon and the voice there. So I'm not sure this is actually being captured on film.
All right, hold on. So right now it says I'm screen sharing and presenting to everyone. It should be on there right now. Do you see it?
No. No, I do not.
All right, well, I'll bring it back to you for now. See what I can do.
We just got something kicking.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah, once again, ladies and gentlemen, you have to forgive us right now. We're kind of at the whims of a questionable software solution at the moment still with Google. What the hell is this stuff called again?
Hangouts?
Yeah, Google Hangouts. We're at the whim still on Google Hangouts. We haven't worked out the alternate solution just yet. Well, we're still working on it, ladies and gentlemen. But, okay, now we're back. We have the great headquarters of the Godzilla Prediction Network, a.k.a. kind of a beat-up shack of a kind of factory space, let's be honest.
Well, it's got all the trappings. You can see the computers going on there in the background. You can see the distracted father not even paying attention to his 10-year-old daughter. But fortunately, she's a good businesswoman already. She's trying to sell a reporter on the package for joining their network in exchange for their assistance in getting more pictures of Godzilla. And they have multiple plans, including one that allows her 50% off as long as she pays a part of the expenses. Which, as a sales pitch, entertained the hell out of me, actually, for what it was.
Yeah, basically, in terms of what you need to understand about the dynamic between the father and daughter here is, well, the father is very competent in what he does in terms of the research aspect. In terms of kind of the day-to-day operations and duties and household stuff, it's the daughter who takes care of all that stuff there. Yeah, the daughter is basically the one kind of acting as caretaker for most of the things there. And also doing the financial parts of the business. It's actually quite comical.
Indeed. So in that stead, you have really your main characters, if you want to break it down, are these folks that we're talking about there. I'm going to let Manyninjas finish fixing himself. I'm going to come back here for a second. Your main characters are that scientist, his daughter, and the reporter. They compose one group. Another group is CCI, which is basically headed by this gentleman. Now, hopefully the picture will come on for you guys. Let's see if it does. You can let me know. Urban Ninjas, you have to be my eyes. Can you see?
We're good. All right, it's showing the screen now.
Beautiful. All right, so this guy right here, he's supposed to be our bad guy. And he's actually hilarious in his own way because he is the straight man in this movie. He basically is just they even gave him this deep voice and the whole thing just to make it like more comedic. It's actually hilarious because he's incredibly serious in his thing. And when basically he's telling the scientist that they're going to shut down his thing and they're going to kill Godzilla, and he basically goes straight face pretty much the whole time. He's like, "I'll send flowers," and that's the dubbing that they add into it. So like it's serious, but it's not. Like it's
Yeah, he's actually one of the better human parts in there, at least in terms of an antagonist there. Realistically, he's the second antagonist of the film. One is the UFO that has basically no character, nothing to it, until the very end where they start to do some last-minute exposition to justify it. But no, this guy is the main antagonist of the whole film. And apparently he has a lot of flowers he needs to send out. One for Godzilla, and due to some actions that will occur later in the film, that put one of the other main characters in jeopardy, I'll have to send more flowers out to his family now.
Yeah, but the thing for me is that that's basically the only time that he's arguably sort of a villain.
Yeah.
He's not really very villainous. Because regardless of his thought process behind it, he has a legitimate point that Godzilla's dangerous to the people in Tokyo, being that he destroys their city all the time. So the idea of let's destroy this thing so it stops destroying Tokyo, so we stop having to rebuild it, that's not an unreasonable thought process to be going through, given that by this point Godzilla's a thing, and they've developed detection networks and things to try to be able to figure out where Godzilla is and track its movements. Until that point where they're about to blow up a building to try to destroy this this usurper. Until that point where they're going to blow up this building, and then he now knows that there is still a guy there, and he's like, look, we got to take this thing out before the day breaks, because what they discover when they're examining the alien vessel or whatever it turns out to be, they discover that it's largely powered on solar power. So in the evening, it's kind of powered down relatively. So they're trying to get a handle on what it is, because for them that whole portion happens pretty quickly, and Godzilla's fights with it ends up being kind of pushed to the end. But in the beginning, it's just like, okay, this is an alien threat. It's now distracting us from this other threat, so we need to take care of the alien threat so that we can go back to dealing with the Godzilla threat that we were worried about in the first place.
It's convoluted, really, how everything meshed up. And realistically, at the end, or at this point, where they begin to realize what the UFO is actually doing, and thus the steps of it is like, okay, we need to destroy the building it's attempting to extract information from. Because apparently this UFO has some kind of invisible tentacles of sorts that can reach into the data system and the electrical stream of everything and steal data, which are used in order to steal data about the general populace, the actual planet atmosphere, and information about Godzilla, which they don't figure out fully until, of course, it's too late, what it was trying to do. So before it can steal too much information, they figure out, okay, maybe we should do something to blow it up. Of course, this doesn't work. But technically, even though they were threatening to blow up the male scientists there, yeah, as we have Godzilla. Hey, how's it going, Big G? As we have, with the exception of almost blowing up the other scientists there, generally not evil. Most of the stuff that the CCI does, if you really want to look at it, isn't evil for the most part. It's just protectionist, if anything.
Yeah, it's not well thought out, but basically they're trying to. They're a crisis control intelligence agency. Godzilla qualifies as a crisis. They're trying to contain the crisis as quickly as possible to prevent as much damage as possible. Now, I wanted to bring this picture on here for a reason. Number one, just so you can get another look, a better look at our lovely Godzilla costume individual here, looking pretty solid. And you've also got to love the lovely cheap-ass looking green screen here, where it just looks like he's floating on top of the water. It's actually
okay. No, the green screening in this movie, unfortunately, is haphazard
brutal.
at best. Let's be
Brutal.
honest.
It's brutal.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Can you just leave it on the suit for a second?
Yeah, I got it.
One, it's a really nice suit. Two, I believe this was one of the last films that was done that hit the North American market until more recent parts. But off the top of my head, I'll have someone correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure this suit, or at least the same general style suit, also appears in one of the last films for the original Godzilla set in total, or I should really say the last of the Toho-based Godzilla movies, being Godzilla Final Wars, using a very similar build of Godzilla suit, if not the same one. So this kind of became the last real look for Godzilla when it's still a guy in a suit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that's fair. It's one of those things where the campiness is part of its appeal. Like, I'm showing you different things just so you can see. And this is not to slag on it, because in some movies you would have these things and you'd be like, oh, that's a crappy movie, whatever. Part of the appeal, part of the fun of a Godzilla movie is that it is silly. The bad dubbing, the cheesy effects, the fact that it's a guy in a suit destroying like a little miniaturized set, mini cars, mini bridges, whatever.
The guy in the suit makes it better, actually.
It makes it more fun. Realistically, you can do all this in CGI, and it'll look way more realistic, but it loses some of the soul of it. The cheesiness, the campiness is part of its thing. It was never meant to be taken seriously. This franchise is 60 years old at this point. 60 years old this year. That's part of the reason why that new movie came out, as kind of an anniversary / let's capitalize on the anniversary and put something out. But you have to embrace the campiness. One example I'll give you. Let me pull up another one of my lovely screen grabs. I won't always have these many, but for this movie, it's appropriate. So this is actually one of the scientist guys. This is one of the scientists that are helping out the CCI from the outset. This scene was particularly enjoyable to me. The reason why being that at this point, the spaceship is actually, it looks like a meteorite to them. It looks like just a big rock. As it turns out, the spaceship was trapped inside of a bunch of stone around it. So at some point it had fallen into molten and it had all, solidified into stone. So they were watching it from this boat, and now, because of solar energy, it's been recharged, and now the ship is about to start moving. And it's beginning to move. And the guy, if you look, you can see the two gentlemen I'm looking at, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the guy with the glasses there is our scientist, obviously, to follow all stereotypes. The other guy is one of the shipmates there on the boat. And the thing is, he turns to the guy, and in the dubbing he goes, "We've got to get out of here. We've got to move the ship." And then he stares back at the guy, laughs, and then they go back to staring at it, which is brilliant. It's utterly fantastic. It's like, The guy makes a perfectly valid point. It's moving towards us. It looks like it might crush us. We should move the boat.
Yeah.
The guy turns to him, laughs in acknowledgement of his comment, and then goes back to looking at it while nobody moves the boat.
Yeah, no, there was something that happened with the dubbing there. Quite frankly, it's quite hilarious. That whole scene was kind of comical when the UFO finally started its move, and basically everyone was confused as to what the hell was going on. But it's like, one, a bit of the dubbing there. Two, the UFO moving. The UFO looks silly in its movements, as it's still basically trapped in a giant rock. So you have a giant rock basically take a 90-degree angle, then take another angle and start rotating slowly as if slowly float away somewhere across a badly green screen background. And then we move on to the planes where Godzilla is fighting the military, who are also all above a badly green screen background. And then everyone looks confused. The military is like, what the hell is that? Godzilla looks abused. What the hell is that? And where is my Snickers? And then he gets shot for a laser with a laser just because he didn't realize, hey, maybe I should do something other than getting shot.
Indeed. And one lovely subplot of this film, and point that I feel needs making, is that while we'll accept a certain amount of campiness, there is a certain stupidity that these movies bring in that you have to be willing to accept. One of them is the premise, the reason why God is nigh indestructible is his remarkable healing ability. And Godzilla's remarkable healing ability is explained partially in this film with a skin sample that regenerates itself entirely. Their theory is that Godzilla's radiation foundation is key to its incredible regenerative powers, which is great. Minus the fact that you've got the scientist who collects the skin sample and steps inside of his footprint. You have the scientist who was in close proximity to Godzilla this whole time at various points throughout the movie. You have the scientist who's playing around with the skin sample inside of a regular beaker. Shouldn't this guy have died of radioactive poisoning or cancer by now?
You forgot to mention part of the reason the photographer had to go back to them in the first place, because they were in too close proximity to Godzilla. The entire negatives were irradiated to the point of being unusable. You forgot about that part.
No, I didn't. I actually was going to get to that. But yes, you're 100% right. There's emphasis all over this place of we're tracking him using his radiation. We're doing this using his radiation. There's this radiation. I understand Hiroshima, when the Godzilla thing happened, Hiroshima wasn't that far in the background, but radiation in those levels consistently is bad, kids.
What you need to understand is the characters who are researching this, much like Godzilla itself, all have a regenerative ability known as plot armor.
Yes.
Only, unfortunately for the rest of them, only Godzilla is the one with lasers, or atomic breath, whatever you prefer to call it.
Yes, I gotta have the heat breath here. Boom! Check it out. And this is fairly early on. This is during Godzilla's infamous early battle with our UFO overlords, and brings out the atomic breath, which is, it will become key in our story as we proceed along.
All right. We've actually been kind of bouncing back and forth between the plot at this point.
Let's move. Right now, we're pretty good for the most part. We've established Godzilla fights UFO a couple of times, fought some more once early on, around the time that he's fighting with the military. Now everybody's aware of the UFO. Because of that, we're moving past that. I'll fill in a couple of gaps here. So the UFO ends up parking itself on top of an office building, specifically the office building that our reporter's news agency is at, the newspaper or whatever the case is. So it ends up doing it, and that's where it uses its tentacles to try to hook into the computer mainframe and download the information. And this brings us to a very important point, and we're going to explain that now. The military. The military in Japan in these Godzilla movies is entirely useless. There is absolutely nothing that they do that is of effect to anyone. Number one, they can never take down Godzilla anyway. They're entirely pointless. They basically just annoy Godzilla and delay things. And then, given that they can't handle that portion of it, when given a simple job like evacuate a building, they struggle. They struggle because they're able to evacuate the building, but they're defeated by the most cunning and clever of tactics. Wait until they're distracted and run past the military guy. Can you see here?
1 second. No, I'm drawing a blank again. Yeah, no, the screen's blank. I'm just getting your audio at this point.
All right. Well, give it a minute because it's doing the screen sharing thing and it should be presenting. I'll come back to you for a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's actually a bit where the UFO starts maneuvering, and while it's happening, everybody looks up, and during that time, our scientist uses it as a distraction to run into the building. Am I still a blank on your end?
Yeah, you still are.
Okay, this is getting annoying. The screen sharing thing is usually pretty good.
Yeah. As a side note.
My video's back yet?
Yeah, your video's back.
Okay.
As a side note, okay. It also has a little pamphlet here. I'm not sure if I'm on the screen anymore. Okay, we can see your screen now.
All right, now go ahead, show the thing in the pamphlet.
Yeah,
Since you're there.
a little pamphlet there, doing a little cover, and a little description of what's going on in this particular film, and a little bit of the background of the film itself. And then, of course, scene selection. This is something we don't get with Blu-rays anymore.
The thing is, you still have it. You just don't list it because it's not novel. You still have it. You can still fast forward to scenes in Blu-ray just the
No,
same way.
I mean any kind of a listing or any kind of real description. There's almost no papers in there anymore.
Yeah, that's just saving space. So here, I'll show you the thing I was talking about. Here it is.
Yep.
Check it out. Note the military guy looking upward, being distracted by this UFO doing its thing, and our guy there becomes blurry because now he's about to break into a full sprint run right past the military.
Yeah.
Please
in a real
note,
situation, he would have gotten shot.
please note that not only should he have gotten shot, past this point, we never see the military guys ever go after him. Nobody bothers to have any consequences for the fact that he just ran past the military blockade.
Well, realistically, I can understand why they didn't run after his like. We could go after him. But didn't we put a giant-ass bomb up in that building? Yes, we did, Tim. Alright, we ain't run after him. Also, who the hell's Tim? I don't know. This is terrible dubbing, Clem. You just called me Tim. Why are you calling me Clem now?
And your accent changed. And your accent changed.
Idiots.
By the way, now that we're at this point, the explosion, by the way, is our last ounce of an attempt at a plot with the humans. In a very climactic, dramatic moment. The father and daughter come, save the reporter, convince the reporter and the daughter to leave, while the scientist is going to speedily try to get all the information onto her laptop, her Sony Vaio, so that they can retain the information that they have and bring it over. Because God knows they need this information. They can't hack into it from a mainframe. The information turns out not to be really that useful anyway. It doesn't really come up again, to be honest. But their presumed idea is they're trying to figure out what the aliens want with Godzilla's data. So they do this. So they do the whole dramatic thing where the building gets blown up. And then our scientist father manages to go down an elevator shaft and save himself from getting blown up to smithereens. And then the family reunites. And now this having been done and the building being blown up, unfortunately for them, the alien vessel is completely unaffected. And now having gotten its data and things, is now in the process of using what it's collected in order to create the next stage, in order to try to acclimate itself to the Earth's atmosphere to take over. Now, before it can do that, though, it has to, mutate into a thing. And I can show you the thing. Let's see if it comes on here.
Yep.
And let me know if it comes on here, Manyninjas. You'll have to tell me.
As a side note, the thing does have a name, although it's never mentioned. Yeah, well, that's what the alien's hypothetical natural form looks like.
Yes, can you see it there?
Yeah.
Perfect.
The monster in this film is given the title of Orga, by the way. It doesn't mention it at any point in the movie, but it does mention it both in scene selection and in other details later.
I like that it has a name, but at the same time, I keep wondering, what's the point of naming it if in the movie you're never going to reference it anyway?
Yeah. Hypothetically, what goes on with the transformation, I suppose this is supposed to be its natural form, but something goes wrong with the transformation or the attempt to acclimate itself, so it ends up mutating between part this, part Godzilla.
Well, it does so because the Earth's atmosphere is not something it can handle.
Yeah.
So it has to adjust. So here is our lovely CGI'd creature, our tentacled monster that becomes other thingy.
Yeah.
Check it out. Pretty menacing, right?
Cole's note, it is actually larger than Godzilla.
Yeah, man. Check it out. It's got armor and stuff.
Yep, pretty gnarly looking dude.
Yep. And he can take quite a beating from our good friend Godzilla. And then this brings on the part we were all waiting for. Monster fight.
This is the most enjoyable part of the film, as you can imagine.
Here it is, guys. Monster fight. The thing we waited this whole time to get to freaking monster fight. We put up with this crummy subplot. This This completely boring thing. I don't care about the scientist. I don't care about his daughter. I don't care about the reporter. We are all here for Monster Fight. And then here it is. Manyninjas, tell us about Monster Fight.
All right. Pretty much inside you have Godzilla and Orga going toe-to-toe. Just due to sheer experience, Godzilla gets the upper hand pretty early on. Only for, lo and behold, the UFO he thought he had blown up, you're sure it's pretty damn trash, but it's still actually functioning. So you have both Godzilla and facing off against Orga and the UFO. The UFO goes down again. But because of the resulting attacks, Orga somehow still manages to absorb more of Godzilla's DNA and starts mutating further and further until it's bigger, more muscular than before, and more scaly for that matter. And seemingly, all is lost when the thing gets the ability to form kind of a giant suction thing in its mouth. I don't know what the hell it's called. And in its infinite wisdom, Godzilla's next action after seeing this is to run straight into its mouth, which confuses the hell out of all the scientists and everything, until suddenly everything starts glowing a bright red. Because seeing that the laser breath didn't work, or the atomic breath didn't work the first time, Godzilla decides, I'm going to destroy the thing from the inside out, and nukes the whole thing from the inside so it can't regenerate.
Indeed. And the only reason it can regenerate is because the aliens had absorbed a little bit of Godzilla's DNA. Its glorious healing factor. It borrowed a piece of it. And then yes, it ended up being a scene where effectively the alien had like a mouth inside the mouth. Basically, it was like an alien out of the movie Aliens, like a sucker. I forget what the thing's called.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it managed to be something that went in, it opened its mouth wide, and then it tried basically to eat Godzilla and ended up getting irrevocable indigestion and getting completely nucleafied. Again, spreading the atmosphere with a nuclear effect. The fire breath is effectively a nuclear fire breath that destroys all the matter that is in its way. So, of course, having done this and having caused an explosion of radioactive matter everywhere, the humans are again unharmed because they are completely, through plot armor, are completely invulnerable to the radiation that should have killed them several times.
So, yes, at this point we have the UFO monster defeated. The Tokyo is loosely saved. This is still a monster battle. There's a ton of destruction. Yet less than what you'll find in Man of Steel. But no, Godzilla detects there's still one loose end. And he meanders towards the scientist group. And particularly has a stare down with the one antagonist, the one jackass from CCI, who rather than attempting to run away with everyone else, just continues to stand there and has a smoke. Comments, I've never seen Godzilla from this close. And as his co-workers, or none of his co-workers, but the other scientist, which is that he's been kind of rivaling with this whole time, tries to tell them out of the way. He shoves them out of the way, and as Godzilla begins to wind back, he yells in a poorly dubbed and quite hammed up fashion, Godzilla! And then gets smacked down for his effort. Godzilla is satisfied with this.
This ranks as probably the most pointless and most absurd of the thing. Number one, why does Godzilla what brings Godzilla over here? Other than plot requirement. Godzilla has no idea who this guy is from Adam. He could be anybody. So he has no specific reason to come by, number one. Number two, the idiot just stands there and basically waits his death. Godzilla only meanders at like 3 miles an hour towards him, effectively giving him all the time in the world to run away, and they all basically wait until the last minute to leave before he gets smited for his trouble. And then having smited the one guy, rather than finishing the building off and killing everybody else, he walks away, which leads the people to say, ask themselves, why does he keep protecting us? And then lead the scientist guy to say, this is all in the dubbing now, maybe there's a part of Godzilla in all of us, or something to that effect. To which I reply, Fuck no, he's destroying the rest of Tokyo.
The rest of the credits is him setting everything directly around him in a circle of fire. Maybe there's a bit of Godzilla in all of us. No, there's a lot of Godzilla on top of all of us, namely the burning parts.
Maybe there's a part of Godzilla in us that's an asshole. Godzilla
Someone should have given him a goddamn Snickers. This would have solved everything.
Godzilla doesn't actually like people. He's not saving you. He's pissed off that its spotlight was taken away. Having vanquished the monster that tried to take Godzilla's spotlight, then Godzilla turns its attention back to where it started, on the rampage of Tokyo.
I'm just saying, if we had given the guy a Snickers, this would have all been solved. We've seen the effect of Snickers on Godzilla. Additionally, if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, look up Snickers and Godzilla on YouTube. It's a rather entertaining campaign ad. Trust me, I like it.
Indeed. So the bottom line is, what the fuck? But we got a monster battle. Godzilla in a suit, bad dubbing, monster battle. What's not to love? I say it's a win. What say you, Manyninjas?
I say we need more Godzilla films. That's what I say. You can't go wrong with Godzilla. Actual correction. You can go wrong, but it's only been done once. And when that happened, the parent company, Toho, bought back the rights for that, and then subsequently killed it in the next film, Final Wars. And we will never speak of it again. Godzilla stuff, serious business.
Indeed. So on that note, this is, the classic style Godzilla. We really could have gone with any of the whole series of the movies. Feel free to go back and check them out. There's a lot of campy goodness in it. Godzilla 2000 I like because, number one, we happen to have it on hand, which made it really handy. Helped me do the screen grabs that I got for you guys. I might have overdone them a little bit. You let me know if there's too many, but I'm going to try to find some way to incorporate them a little bit more nicely to help it out. But in the meantime, regardless, it was a fun watch, a great opportunity to go back and look at a nice classic Godzilla movie. And now what we're going to do on the next episode, which could be in a couple of days, is I'm going to go in, Manyninjas has already watched it, I'm going to go and watch the 2014 Godzilla movie, which I happen to have right here, this guy. So I'm going to watch this guy, and then we're going to do a little comparison. This is the newer style. This is we're back in English feature, a North American feature here of Godzilla and reimagining. We'll do a little comparison and we'll see kind of where we're at, because this guy is going to be more of CGI.
Yeah,
just the nature.
I could say a few things, but quite frankly, I'll leave them to the next video in this case, because I do have some thoughts about how they handled Godzilla comparatively to the last one. There's a few good and a few bad, but we'll leave that to the next video, where I'll really get into that one.
Absolutely. So those two videos will be kind of companion pieces. The next video will be another Godzilla movie, but it'll be the brand new one, just so that we can kind of do a comparison between the two and see kind of where we end up on it. I'm more of an old school Godzilla guy, but I haven't seen this one, so I'll give it a shot, and then we'll see how it goes. We'll see how I feel about it. Overall, though, I think we can both agree Godzilla 2000, classic Godzilla, highly recommended for sure.
It's an easy recommendation. You can't really go wrong with any of the Godzilla films. Well, 99% of the Godzilla films you can't go wrong with. They destroyed the other one. It died very badly. It's very funny, actually. But anywho, in terms of lane and shillage, as we always know, Manyninjas on Twitter. I am manyninjas.com for my website things. Right now, I've just been kind of bouncing back and forth on a few different projects and some bit of a side work, so I haven't necessarily had the time in order to put in another Retro Ninja Gaming up to this point, but that will be changing over the course of this weekend, I hope. Or at least we'll be doing a nice little kind of short bit where I talk about some games. There are a few things I have on the docket. And aside from that, how about you, Carlos?
All right. So what's next on the docket for me is I'm going to update the website, so carlosalcazar.org, with today's video and the last couple. We were up to 33 on the website, so I'm going to put 34, 35 in this one so that we're all up to date. So I'll make sure that's done by the end of tonight. So by the time you see this, more likely than not, it'll be ready to go. Second item is anything updates and things will also be on at Carlos Alcazar2, my Twitter. Feel free to follow, like, subscribe the video, check it out, give comments if you'd like. One thing for sure that I can tell you is that we're still working on what the next couple of movies are going to be after the two Godzilla ones. We knew we were going to do that. It's going to be a matter of figuring that out. I will incorporate that information. And also, feel free to watch the Twitter if you're interested in my thoughts on the baseball playoffs, because I tend to tweet during games. Quite a bit, actually. It's kind of my thing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's been fun talking about Godzilla. We will be continuing this on the very next episode. Although, based on the time there, unless I'm mistaken, we're missing Thursday Night Football, aren't we? This is
Should be coming on. It should be more or less. Kickoff should be right about now.
In that case, ladies and gentlemen, you'll have to forgive me if we cut this one a little short. Once again, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, and comment, please. We'd love to hear your comments. Most of them. If you're asking where the movie is, you clearly did not pay attention to our introduction. But hey, thanks for watching anyway.
Indeed. Until next time, to be continued.